Right, so we should now be live. Let me just close the door because so what we are going to do today is look at the coursework. So trying to see how we're going to do the coursework, how the best way to do it is, and if you are new to the channel, then obviously I am Rich on Planet PE. Hopefully you've seen me before. If not, then welcome to the channel. So all about the coursework today. Now, not going to use the chat quite yet. I'm going to bring that in a little bit. But what I want us to try and focus on is the bits that we have previously done. So if I just take us across to PowerPoint, what we are looking at then is this piece of work here. Okay, so when I spoke to you guys earlier in the week, we looked at this, we looked at the GCSE PE coursework, and we were looking at where it all sat in. So where we are trying to think about along the way is this really important piece of coursework. So it is worth all of 25 marks for you in your practical. So it's in total it's worth 25 marks. Okay, so I can see that we've got somebody in the chat already saying that there's no exams. You are absolutely correct, but this is mainly for the year 10s, and this is a piece of coursework which is going to be worth 25 marks. So in this piece of coursework, as we said the other day, it's worth 25 marks, and it is really important so you guys can try and do as well as possible. So when we spoke about it today, we talked about what we have to do and the fact that there are two sections. So we've got our strengths and weaknesses, and we've got the evaluation section. So the first part is worth 15 marks, and that's what this video is mainly looking at. So again, say hi in the chat. I've got that up on my phone next to the computer. I'm trying something a little bit different today, and it might not necessarily work, but hopefully it will. So if we just have a look at going back to me, let's see if this works. So I am the home, and I'm transitioning by doing that. We should end up back with me. There we go. So I've got a few little things that can try and help you out along the way. So I've got 5 in the chat at the moment. Hi to you guys. If you are new, then welcome. If not, then carry on looking. So let's start by having a look at the things that hopefully you should have done before being here. So where we spoke about the other day was we looked at you guys making sure that you went through your strengths and your weaknesses. Now in this piece of work, it is 1 strength for a fitness component, 1 weakness for a fitness component, 1 strength for your skill, 1 weakness for your skill. So let's start just by having a look at that. So if we just go into here and I bring it up again by going there. So where we want to do is that we need to look at the components of fitness. So these are all the different components of fitness that you guys need to use in your piece of coursework. So we're going to begin by looking at this and how we're going to try and then use it to get the grades that you're after. So we've got all these different components of fitness, and you have to pick one of them as a strength, and you've got to really focus on how that is a strength of yours. So where you are going through and saying that I am looking, let's say, at cardiovascular endurance as my strength, we've got to really sell it and tell us exactly why. So if I just take us to this little document, if I take you to a document in a second that for some reason I've not got up, which is a bit silly of me, then we'll be able to help you along the way. So we've only got a few people in the chat at the moment, so that is absolutely fantastic. So I'm just going to go back to me along the way, and I will transition that way. Back to me. There we go. Okay, so let's just have a look at what we need to do and what we're looking for in this piece of work. So what we're going to be looking at is a piece of work that someone on Twitter sent me that is absolutely amazing, and it's all the credit to her and her book. So if Mel Campbell out there, well done to you. It is a really good piece of work that we're going to try and help the students through. So what you're going to look at in a second is an example of what the sort of thing that we need to try and produce is. Okay, so what a good one looks like is essentially what we're saying on this first piece of work. So if we just go into this piece of work and that's the one. And then from there, we want to transition. Page up. There you go. We are trying to look at this. So we've got loads and loads of writing that we can do, but what we're going to focus on is what a good one looks like in this. And we're going to be looking primarily at the fitness component. So sorry about me scrolling through. I've decided that I've made some difficult buttons that are going to make this problem. Okay, so the first thing I asked you to do today was define the component of fitness that you are going to be looking at. So for this one, what this teacher has done for her example is that she has said that she's going to consider that cardiovascular endurance is a weakness for her. So if we're looking at this as a structure, we've obviously got to do the weaknesses. When we then go to her strengths, she's done exactly the same thing, okay, looking at her strengths. Okay, so on this strength one, she's looked at the idea that agility is her strength. Okay, so what we need to do first of all is that we have to go through and define what we mean by agility. So what she said here is agility is the ability to change direction quickly at speed whilst maintaining control. So that's the first thing we need to do in this piece of work. So those of you who've already started doing it, particularly the people I teach, that is the first thing that I'm looking for in your work. We then need to go through some AO2 things where you're going to begin to explain why that is a strength of yours. So using the notes that you've created in the previous work, in the video that I did on Monday, this is the thing that we want to try and do. So in netball, I play in a position of centre, which requires the fitness component of agility continuous through the match. Agility is important to my position because it allows me to change direction, to dodge and manoeuvre away from my opponent, to receive a pass from my teammates to create an attacking opportunity. Agility is also a crucial part when I am defending against the opposition. I am able to track the path of my opposing player, moving with ease around the court, fulfilling interceptions when called upon. This wouldn't be possible without the component of agility being apparent in my play. So what we've looked at to start off with here is this idea where we're explaining. We're trying to say, well, how is agility actually going to be used in your activity? So what this example shows us is that we're talking about changing direction quickly. We're saying about it's crucial about when we defend, and it helps us to try and track the path of an opposing player with ease around the court. So what we've then got to go for next is the examples. So you guys need to then think about how in a recent game you've actually gone and done it. So the example they've gone for in here is that whilst playing a recent netball match against a local secondary school, my agility played a critical part in my game to outwit the opposing team and in particular the opposing player. So that is a lovely start. We're then looking at making it really, really descriptive, where you're going to really big yourself up to say exactly what you've done and how that's helped. So here's the specific example. Our team had a backline pass which was taken by the goalkeeper. I widened my stance and my position around the edge of the semicircle to receive the pass. Once the pass was received, I was then able to play the ball down the court and use my agility to create space and receive the ball again to maintain possession and create an attacking opportunity for my team. That's really, really descriptive. It's told us exactly what's going on, and it's also starting to use some technical knowledge because it's started to say, I've widened my stance. It's saying, what did you actually do? Now, one of the things that you have to do is actually sound like you know about the sport. So in GCSE PE, one of the things is that you're going to be using technical language from your activity. So things like this are really, really key. That is why in the last video, I asked you guys to kind of research how you were going to teach the skill and what were going to be the important parts of that skill. So let's carry on. So I use my agility after receiving initial pass by changing direction and moving to the opposite side of the court with speed to offer my teammates a pass to me, but to also create space on the court for another team member to receive the pass. This is also key in a game as it allows players to remain spread out on court, move into a new direction with ease, and tire the opposition players with consistent movement on the netball court. We're starting to now say why it's important. We're starting to look at, of this the information that we've got, why is that mattering? Why is it even important to our netball? Okay, So we're then saying after the initial pass and moving into a new space on court, I was then able to use my agility effectively, again by performing a feint dodge technique to quickly move away from my opposing player with control to create a space and successfully receive a pass. Now we then go on to, well, what is that? We've just used the term, go and explain it. So a feint dodge is an attacking move where the player drops their shoulder one way and with speed moves into the opposite direction to ultimately receive a pass whilst in space and maintaining control in the movement at all times to keep possession of the ball. In another competitive game, now this is the key thing, you have to use more than one example. So this is why she's saying in another recent competitive match, agility was key in numerous defending situations where the opposition team had a centre pass. I marked an attacking player, either the wing attack or the goal attack, in the centre third, and when the whistle was blown to restart the match, I shadowed their movement. Moving direction by sidestepping my feet and using my peripheral vision to monitor their movement. This created a barrier between the centre and the player I was marking on the centre pass. Once the pass was played, I then changed my position and moved quickly towards centre to continue marking their movements on the court. This was performed by increasing my speed to move quickly towards my opposing player to move quickly towards my opposing player in a different direction to intercept the ball. It was passed into the semicircle for the goal shooter to attempt to shoot. Agility is a key fitness component needed to be successful as a centre in a competitive netball situation to outwit the opposition successfully. That might seem like a lot, but let's have a look at these key points. Okay, so we've got the first point here where we had to define. We've got the next thing where we're explaining where agility is actually fitting in and why it's a strength of yours. We then want to analyse that by then providing a minimum of 2 sporting examples or recent examples for you to be able to then talk about how has it been positive and why, and be really, really descriptive. We then need to link back to what you originally said about the importance of agility, which we talked about up here, to then use in your sport and examples. Okay, so that's kind of where it is and where it's going to fit in. So what we need to really make sure we're doing then is going through that process in every single piece of work. Okay, so I'm just going to go over to the chat and have a look. So we've got Ahmed. Hi, can you give me any ideas I could add to my strength for passing and receiving in football? Okay, so I'm not sure what you've written at the moment for yours, Ahmed. So to give you any advice would be tough. But what we want to do is make sure that first of all, you're going to be following this sort of criteria. So if we look at that as the fitness, we'll go on to the skill to try and help you out here. So for your skill, what we want to try and do is, just keep scrolling down, sorry. Just keep working our way down, is to work through this. Okay, so for your skill, this is what we're going to look at. So you want to first of all define what you mean by the skill you're doing. So you're saying that you've got passing and receiving in football as your strength. So the first thing to do is define that. So what does that really mean? What does that help you? How does that actually provide some sort of an assistance for you in your sport? You then want to explain where it comes in. So in the example we've got here, we're saying about football passing. It's the ability to pass is the essential part of association football. The purpose of the skill passing is to maintain possession by manoeuvring it along the ground between teammates. By doing this, the whole team has the ability to advance the ball at the playing field. So Ahmed, what you want to do is to start to think about receiving the ball. Okay, if you're saying that passing is a strength, then you could use something like this. If you're talking about receiving, you want to think about things like, taking your ability to take the ball on the back foot would be something that you would want to use. The fact that you can stop the ball and then you're very quickly able to try and move the ball quickly because of your first touch. You then need to explain step by step how you actually perform that skill. So what we're going to do is break it down into its smallest components. So the example here is that we're saying, as a winger, passing is essential. Explaining that we're talking about, we've got long passes, we've got short passes, and then what we go on to is about exactly how you pass. So the fact that we're going to use the inside of the foot, it's all about accuracy, about how actually do you perform the skill. So what you need to think about, Ahmed, is if you're thinking about passing and receiving as your strength, you should be able to explain it and describe it. Now, if I go back to my PowerPoint that I did in the video on Monday, what we did is we looked through, and what I asked you guys to do was to think about these sort of things when we look at our skills. So we want to be able to break it up so that you guys know the teaching points. Okay, so if you don't know the teaching points of that activity or that skill, then you won't really be able to use it to then say, this is what I want to do. So give us a thumbs up or a like if that's what you are aiming for, Ahmed, and that's the sort of thing that you were looking for. So let's just go back to this document then. So on our document here, we've got our explanation, okay? Now, what we've got to do here, like we say, is we have to try and talk about the definition. We've then got to explain it by using our teaching points. We've then got to make sure that we're showing some sort of understanding of your ability to use that in play. So how are you going to give examples of how you've been successful at it? Now, remember, this is a theoretical piece of work, so we're not necessarily asking you guys to say, oh, I'm not that good at it, I'm not that, this, that, and the other. What we're saying is that you guys are trying to big yourselves up to really tell us that if somebody was really, really good at this, even if you're necessarily not, that you're going to tell us why they're so good and give examples about how it's actually helped you in your game when you've been playing. Okay? So once you've done that, you then need to then analyse it. So when you're starting to analyse, we want to think about, well, why is it so positive? What about you performing that skill has really helped you to perform the best that you can? Okay? So let's get back over to the chat. Say hello to a few people. Hi. Any points that people need is what we're going to go for now. So let's just go back while I'm waiting for that into here. So where we've got to think about in section A is this idea where we've got to talk about one strength, which has to be a fixed component, one strength, which has to be a skill, one weakness, which has to be a fixed component, one weakness that has to be a skill component. Now, it's going to be exactly the same as what we have just talked about. So where you're going to start to evidence your examples is just from what you guys are saying. So when you're starting to go through it all and you're going to start to say, this is my example, it's basically your evidence, it's what we call your justification, is what we're going to start to include in there, because the marks come from you giving more than one sporting example, but the key thing is that you guys have to make sure that you are justifying why. So if I say that my strength, let's just go back to me, have a look at my mug in a sec. So if we just go back into here, where you guys are starting to think about your examples is really important, but like I said, the justification is almost more important along the way. So a lot of the marks that you're going to receive are for the fact that you are going to be showing your knowledge of the sport by justifying why it's so important what you're talking about. Straight my head out, a bit of a mess. So where we're going to be doing things like, let's say, cricket, if I was looking at my bowling, I'm going to be saying that my bowling is a big strength because in my team, it helps my team to get more results. It helps us to win games. To win a game of cricket, we have to take 10 wickets to try and get the opposition out. I can, as an opening bowler, can set the tone so that I can show the opposition what we're about. I can make sure that I'm going to be aggressive from the start. I'm going to try and put our team in the position that we're going to get the opening batsman out, because this is the key thing, I'm able to be accurate, I'm able to bowl fast, I can swing the ball, lots and lots of things. Okay, so let's just go back to the chat and see what people are saying. So Ahmed, so what about the evaluation part? So the evaluation part is part B, and I'm going to do that in a further video. So in this is all about section A, which is all about the analysis part, which is, again, 15 marks, which is worth most of the marks that you guys are going to be getting. So for my example, my weakness is cardiovascular endurance, and for evaluation, do I describe cardiovascular endurance and what it is? So are you talking about the evaluation part as in section B, as in when we're talking about this part, which I will get up on the screen in a second. So we're talking about this part. So just come back to me in the chat, Ahmed, because it seems to be a bit quiet today. But hopefully lots of people are going to watch this afterwards. So Ahmed, so you said, so for my example, my weakness is my cardiovascular endurance. And for evaluation, do I describe cardiovascular endurance, what it is, and how I can overcome it? So the evaluation part that you're going to see on the screen is a completely separate part. So we're looking at section A. We don't need to evaluate in this as far as looking at any improvements. The improvements comes in section B, which again I will do a video about later on. What you do have to do in section A is that you do have to make sure that you are going through and you are saying about your weakness and how it's important, how does it hinder you in your activity, how does it make you a worse player in your sport, because essentially what we're saying is that we don't all play for England, we don't all play for whoever, because we've got some weaknesses, and you're saying that for yours it's cardiovascular endurance, so therefore we've got to look at, well, why is that a factor? Okay, so when we go through these pieces of work, we've got to make sure that when we're doing it, that we are ensuring that you are hitting all of those different aspects, that you are in the analysis section, you are analysing why things are good or why things aren't. We're trying to say, well, I'm good at this activity because of this, I'm not so good at this activity because of this. So the difference between maybe you being maybe a really, really good performer and someone else in your class who's not quite as a good performer, about what the difference is from there. Okay, so you keep, on the transitions, you guys keep getting a bit of the OBS stuff because this is brand new for me, and I'm sure there's an easier way to do it than what I'm doing at the moment. So Ahmed, so I've done section A, finished at my deadlines tomorrow for this coursework for the whole thing, right? Okay, so you want to check out lots of other things, but this video is all about section A. For evaluation, you guys have got to make sure that you are starting to come up with the aspects of the course that you want to improve. So if you're looking at your cardiovascular endurance, you need to actually create a full session about how you're going to improve. So you'd use something like continuous training, and it should be a full plan, as if I was going to take it, that I would do it in the way that you would do it. So that's what you have to do in the evaluation part. Okay, so let's just carry on looking at the chat. It is very, very quiet. So I'm going to go back to my document in a second, and I'm going to go through the weaknesses part. So for the weakness part, we want to try and make sure that we're going to be doing the key things. So again, back into OBS, then go out again. Okay, so in my document here, we want to go through the weaknesses. So if I was looking at, say, let's say my my weakness for my skill. Okay, so the skill that I believe is my weakness of mine is the serve in tennis. This skill is a fundamental and crucial component in tennis, because without it, I cannot begin my rally if I can't serve, and I suffer points being given into the opposition players. So what we've got to do is really start off with what the serve is. So I'd be looking here at you talking about what the serve is, where does it fit into the game. So you've then got to explain why it's a weakness and the impact it has on your activity. So again, we're going to need to explain and go through step by step, just like we did for the strength, about how we're going to try and do this piece of work, basically. So if I was to perfect my serve, it would allow me to win many points on the skill alone. For example, if my serve won't go over the net and or keeps going out, I'll be losing points without fully playing. This will mean that I won't have the opportunity to use my other skills and tactics to help me win, as I don't get past the serve. When I'm doing my serve, I'm allowing the ball to drop too low around my eye level. So when I make contact with the ball, it's going into the net. In addition to this, when I throw the ball in the air, when I throw the ball into the air, I'm not holding my left arm long enough, which is a huge benefit as it provides balance, which is the maintenance of centre of mass over the base support when attempts to make contact. So what we need to do here is that we've got to go through bit by bit what we mean by the technique, what we're aiming to try and do. So once again, we're going back to those teaching points that you have to talk about in your strengths and your weaknesses when you are talking about your skills. So if anybody has already completed the work or thinks they have, please go back and have you actually broken down the skill into its smallest parts so that we can try and discuss it in this work. Okay? So where this example shows this is saying essentially that the serve isn't good enough because of the toss, because of the throw, okay, which is one part of the skill. You might look at your receiving and maybe you don't always take it on the back foot, and that means that you're going to have less time to get the ball away, so you've got to take an extra touch every time. And you would talk about how that actually is a problem and also breaking down the skill bit by bit. So when completing a serve, I need to start my arms bent at the elbow joint and then rotate, which is a circular movement around along two axis, whilst extending my arm. My triceps being the agonist and the biceps being the antagonist. Therefore, to gain maximum power, I need to flex my arm so my bicep is the agonist and my tricep is the antagonist. Whilst in the movement is occurring, to throw the ball up, I need to extend my arm and release head height and throw the ball out in front of me at a good height, which is around head height. Once contact has been made with the ball, I extend my arms to release the power and finish the racket down by my left side to allow full completion and more chances of getting over the net. Earlier I mentioned that I drop the ball too low and sometimes causes me to double fault. In order to avoid this mistake, I would complete the correct serve. I need to, and then they go through all the points that they need to do to then maybe change their technique, okay, or how the technique should be performed. So they've gone through 4 different steps to say how the technique should be performed and how they're not doing that correctly. They're then analysing what the problem is within a game situation by analysing what the problem is going to be. So in a recent match, my serve let me down as I kept losing points due to double faults because I was allowing the ball to drop too low. As I stepped up, my alignment, I allowed my feet along the baseline and threw the ball up. I was making contact at the wrong time when the ball was too low, which meant it was going into the net on too many occasions. In tennis, you can't lose mentality. So if the ball goes into the net the first time, you can't let it make you doubt yourself on the second service. Furthermore, I got my second ball and threw it up in the air and made contact at the appropriate time around head height, but I didn't hold my left hand in the air for long enough. This resulted in an uneven balance and a lack of focus on the ball, meaning that the ball was hit into the net on several occasions, causing several double faults. In order to complete it successfully, I'm going to follow the steps above and complete my training sessions to improve. Also, I'm going to be more skilled in the sport. I'm going to be beginning to recognise my own faults, and therefore I'm able to acknowledge what I need to do to perfect myself as a player. I've mentioned previously that I don't hold my left hand up in the air for very long or for long enough, so I need to hold it up and slowly take it down as I'm making contact with the ball. I feel that my serve needs to improve in order for me to progress as a player. In the second section of this, I will outline the theory of why my serve is my weakness. So in the evaluation part, we're going to then go into this and use some theory knowledge, and normally it has to be a psychology aspect about maybe the reasons why. So for this one, it could be something like guidance, it could be feedback, it could be arousal, it could be anything where you would then try and do that. So for this piece of work, this is where we need to be. So we really start to analyse examples. And again, as we said inside here, we need to provide a minimum of 2 examples if you want to try and get a higher band. If you only put 1 example, you are going to get less marks. So it has to be 2 examples from you playing that sport. So that's pretty much where we are, really. So in the document we've already discussed the fact that we've got to go through all these points. So we've got to say that we've got one strength, which is a fitness component. We've got one weakness, which is also a fitness component. One skill strength and one skill weakness. And then once you've done all that, that's your section A finished. Okay, so all you're doing in section A is analysing your own performance. Okay, nothing more, nothing less. So where you need to make sure that you are really focused on is that the examples that you're giving are helpful for you. That they are going to be the sort of ones that you want to use in your work. So you're not just kind of bringing ones out for no real reason. That you're not using things that aren't necessarily as important. I will do another video later in the week looking at the evaluation section, but only really briefly, because this is a piece of work that's going to take you a long time to complete if you do it properly. Now remember, it's worth 25 marks of your final grade. So we've got to make sure that we are spending as much time as possible on it. Okay, so I'm just going to go for another maybe 10 minutes and go into the chat if anybody has any particular random GCSE PE questions that you might want to ask. So as far as the work for the NEA, that's all done now. Let's have a look at if there's anything else that people want any clarification on for GCSE PE or anything else going forward. So Ahmed's saying that he is stuck in the evaluation part. Okay, so Ahmed, if you are still with us, for the evaluation part, you need to first of all go through your weakness. Okay, you've talked about your fitness weakness and you've got to look at how you try and improve it. So for that, you've got to go through a exercise plan as far as one session about what you're going to do, and you're going to use all of the different components of fitness, not components of fitness, sorry, the methods of training that you're going to use. You're going to use also the principles of training that you're going to have to talk about. And like I said earlier, I would need a session as if I'm going to complete your session and I've never met you before. Okay. On the next bit, you've then got to look at your skill weakness and how that is affected by one piece of theory. So I would use something like information processing, for instance, and I would say that my decision making is the issue. But then you're going to talk about how experience is then there. You're going to use all your information that you know to then try and use that in your evaluation section. So you can pick any part of the course that you can talk about in there, but I think it has to be a psychology part that you use. So anybody in the chat want any questions answering? Otherwise I'm going to log off. If you're watching this later, I'm sorry about the pauses, but my chat is there because when I put it in before, it was a bit of a pain in the backside. So we've done there about 35 minutes, so didn't take long. wasn't the worst thing in the world. Again, if you have already subscribed, fantastic. Make sure you like the videos, but also check me out on Instagram and on Twitter, where if there's any questions that you guys have, we can try and answer to try and get you the best marks possible. So remember, Planet PE. What else can I say? Right, see you later, guys.